there was something else that you spoke about, and this is personally relevant to me, and I'm interested in this. And you talk about like a main problem in building spiritual communities. Can you just kind of explain what that problem is? And what I'm really interested in is, how do we potentially override this problem?
Mhm. Okay, so this is also, of course, something I'm very interested in and been thinking a lot more about since we actually wrote that chapter in the book. But the thing we write in the book is that, okay, spiritual communities are about spirituality, so they're going to be about subjective state and depth. And particularly about subjective states, because the guru is somebody who has the capacity to gather a community, particularly because there's a sense of transmission. People come across this person and that they're catapulted into some kind of very high state. So in a sense, the reason this person gets to be the guru is that people sense that there's something about how they sense the world that transmits to yourself when you listen to them, right? Or engage with them, right? And it is true, right? If just like emotions can be contagious, and rock stars can make you feel strong things and so forth, right? Given certain ritualistic settings, right? Everybody does stomp, etc. Right? These things activate deep neural patterns in our brain that are ancient, and so we can. The larger the group, and then the more cohesive the resonance of the interaction, the greater effect.
And a hive mind.
Yeah, exactly. They can be like amps for that kind of signal. So, and if the reason that this person is respected and followed as a guru and listened to is that they somehow embody and express the higher states of subjective being, you have inadvertently built a hierarchy based on a very, very ephemeral thing, right? The subjective state. And the subjective state, I mean, first of all, we never know exactly if the person actually transmits something or if they elicited something else in you. You can't know for sure, right? And the second is you can't be because they're transient. The states always go up and down. It's like weather or whatever, right? You cannot be ever in the highest states. Or maybe some extremely rare exceptions, right? That like, oh, I just my family member just died, but I'm entirely peaceful. Like it doesn't really work that way for anyone. That it's there's not just sadness and feelings. There are also low states, and they affect everyone, like anxiety or lack of concentration and frazzled mind or all of these different things, right? And the difficult part of creating then a hierarchy based on that is that you never know for sure if the person you're following or that you're giving away power to is actually in that higher state right now, or if they're maybe for the sake of the investment of the social role they were already in, are faking it a little bit. And you never know if the next person next to you sitting there also on a spiritual path, trying to be open and get over their ego, whatever might be the dogma of that particular congregation, you never know if they're faking it, because the social expectation on everyone is to achieve those higher states, right? And that's why you got there in the first place. So you're in a place where you're looking for the highest possible authenticity to get into the realest possible you, but where the whole setup automatically slides you into the authentic sooner or later, right? And I think a lot of them, I don't think this is an exhaustive model of why these guru following congregations tend to go south sooner or later. But I think it's an important factor in it, that everybody will start acting with the norm of expressing the higher states, and then subtly disconnecting from actually feeling higher states, because you're disconnecting from authenticity, which is the most important thing to get in the higher states. And when you feel that disconnect, in turn, you've invested everything in following this one guru or this one wisdom teaching, then you start to project the higher qualities, a golden shadow, onto that person. And of course, power corrupts, right? So let's look at, in the book we mentioned Muji as a possibly benevolent guru, because I hadn't read any bad stuff about him up until that point. Well, now you can watch videos, and there's of Muji, and I have friends who are in that context, or acquaintances anyway. And Muji has community in Portugal at the time. It's a, I think, British Jamaican guru initially.
Yeah.
And what you see is lots and lots of people, especially the young women, for some reason, they sing about and talk about how much they want to kiss his feet, right? And how reasonable it is to want to kiss his feet, given all he's given to them. And he's sitting there nodding, and it's like perfectly reasonable. Now, of course, kissing, like hundreds of people wanting to kiss this old dude's feet, is not perfectly reasonable. It is absolutely perverse, right? And that's apparent in any other setting, right? The only social setting where that could be, that twisted logic could somehow become entirely reasonable, or seem entirely reasonable, would be, okay, you literally think this guy is walking Jesus, right? Or God, or the voice of the highest thing that exists in the universe. And now, then, if you read up on the critics or the dropouts, et cetera, there are suicides, there's stolen money, there's community work that is close to slavery. There are threats, there are pressures to stick around, and of course, sexual misuses of power, and well, it's just awful, and it happened again, right? And if these things happen again and again, okay, maybe there's something wrong with the structure, right? Maybe there's something fundamentally wrong with that model of how to together work for the highest states. Now, I have said, and you have also said it at the same time, probably it's the most volatile or changeable part of this developmental spectrum, or these developmental dimensions, is subjective state. And it's probably the most important one, because hey, we get a lot of energized, inspired people in love with the world and connecting to their higher potentials. That's probably what we need, and it's probably actually doable, as a contrast to suddenly raising everybody's IQ and MHC, or cognitive complexity, or transplanting certain cultural codes across the globe, right? It's just not conceivable or doable or even desirable. And it's, it takes pretty evil people to try to do that. So we have to somehow resolve this problem, right?